Shabbat cold morning to you.
Shabbat shalom. Oops.
Not ready for this yet. In these two portions, we see two sets of individuals, very different in their personalities and relationships. In the whole Torah portion, we just read one section, but in the whole portion, it talks about Esau and Jacob, and in the Haftorah it talks about David and Jonathan. Esau and Jacob were at odds at each other before they were even born. Hadn't even made it out of the womb yet. Rebecca said there was a war going on inside of her. Before they were born, the Lord declared that the older would serve the younger. And in the culture of that day, that just wasn't done. The firstborn was given preferential treatment and opportunities. However, the Lord had other ideas. In his infinite wisdom, he saw that Esau was not the one that would carry on the lineage that he had promised to Abraham. Esau held little regard for his status and sold his birthright for a bowl of beans. No aspersions on Daniel there. He's our bean man here. Caring more about his feelings and matters of the moment than what his future would look like later. Years later, when Rebekah learned that Isaac was going to bless Esau, she quickly set out to trick her husband tricked her husband into giving Jacob, her favorite son, the firstborn blessing. After Esau learned of this, he was determined to get even with Jacob and kill him once her father Isaac was gone. Rebekah sent Jacob away to her people to get a wife, hoping that one day he and Esau would reconcile and forgive each other. The event took almost 20 years to happen, but they eventually did meet and reconnect. In the case of David and Jonathan, the two didn't meet until after David, the youngest of the sons of Jesse, had been appointed king by Samuel, had killed Goliath, and defeated the Philistines attacking that day. When he returned and reported to Saul what had taken place, he and Jonathan met for the first time. They became fast friends. Saul initially set David over men of war, but that came to an end after Saul heard the women saying, "Saul has killed his thousands, but David his 10,000s." Didn't sit well with him. Jealousy reared its ugly head and in the kingly household, and it wouldn't be the first time. Jonathan, who was next in the kingly line, was torn between loyalty to his father, the king, and to David, the king in waiting. As time went on, it became increasingly evident that Saul was threatened by David's presence. He knew that one day this ruddy young sheep herder would take his place as king, not Jonathan. And he also knew that Jonathan was very fond of David, and that irked him to no end. In the Haftorah, we see the account of Jonathan giving David intel on what Saul was planning for him. Initially, Saul thought David was absent at the meal, but after several days passed, he realized that was not the case and blamed Jonathan for siding with David, saying he was squandering his own future by being friends with David. This is the last recorded meeting of David and Jonathan. David left the presence of Saul, making guerrilla warfare on the Philistines, and even once showing Saul how close he came to doing him in. In both cases, the younger would ultimately rule over the older. In both cases, there was strife and contention. But in the latter, we see the contention being overcome by loyalty and devotion to God and to each other. So how did these four individuals end up? In Obadiah, the huge book of Obadiah, one chapter. It says that Edom, Esau's descendants, would be brought to nothing because of the violence they did against their brother Jacob. Shame will cover you, and you'll be cut off forever. Jonathan and Saul both met their end at the hands of the Philistines on Mount Gilboa. Jacob, Israel, fulfilled the prophecy about becoming a great nation even to this day. Messiah would come through the Davidic line. God will use those whose heart is turned toward him. Remember when Samuel was searching for a king? He rejected the other sons of Jesse, waiting for the youngest, David, to come to him. Later on, God calls David a man after my own heart. We can choose to squander our birthright by not taking time to get to know God, or we can study and learn his ways. Keep watching for what's to come and store up for yourselves treasures in heaven. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.